I call Dr. Pamji Palmer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to speak on the first reading of the Employment Standards Legislation Bill. Mr. Speaker, I can tell the House that this bill shows the government's commitment to ensuring the employment law is fair and supportive for diverse work requirements of employees and employers, both employees and employers. Mr. Speaker, we are trying to fix various issues that are concerning employees, and I'm surprised to see that previous speaker getting so angry about us trying to fix those issues which workers are concerned about. Mr. Speaker, to make the employment law fairer and supportive for employees and employers, this bill aims to amend various employment-related statutes. So the amendments proposed in this bill are wide-ranging. These measures are to strengthen enforcement of employment standards like minimum wage, like annual holiday and written employment agreements. And to support that enforcement, Mr. Speaker, employers will be required to keep record to demonstrate compliance to minimum employment standards. And Mr. Speaker, in general, our labor market is functioning well. And our employment relations framework is aiming to strike the right balance between flexibility and certainty. We want flexibility for employers and employees, and we also want to provide them certainty. So, Mr. Speaker, this bill is about also addressing the issue of agreements called zero-hour contracts. Zero-hour contracts are where employers are not required to commit for any number of hours of work to employees, but they expect employees to be available all the time, where employers can cancel any shift without a reasonable notice or compensation to the employee, where employers can deduct a wage from employees' wages, and where employers can prevent employees getting into secondary employment. So, Mr. Speaker, to me, this is unfair because employees can't plan their finances, they can't plan their personal life. To me, both parties are important, employees and employers. So it's about having that mutual agreement. So this bill addresses the zero-hour contracts issue by making it a mutual agreement between employers and employees. For example, Mr. Speaker, if an employee agrees to work for 10 hours for an employer, then that will be put upfront in the agreement. And then the employee can decline for more number of hours than 10 hours to work for that employer. And on the other side, the employer will not be obliged to offer more number of hours to that employee. And also, the employer will not be able to prevent the employee from getting into secondary employment unless there's a real ground, but they will be still able to ask them to disclose information about their secondary employment, which is fair, Mr. Speaker, because businesses, they need to protect themselves. They need to know if there is any conflict of interest, if there is any intellectual property issue. And Mr. Speaker, finally, as I said, this bill addresses wide-ranging issues. The other component is the paid parental leave scheme extension and increased flexibility. And Mr. Speaker, this bill is to change the definition of an eligible employee and will be extending paid parental leave entitlement to more workers, which includes seasonal workers, casual workers, and employees who recently changed their jobs. And paid parental leave will also be extended to primary carers. So primary carers don't include biological parents or adoptive, formal adoptive parents, but primary carers to qualify for paid parental leave should be in employment before taking up the role of a primary carer. Mr. Speaker, this bill is about balancing the relationship between employees and employers, and is also about meeting the needs of both employers and employees. It's a great bill. I support the bill and I commend the bill to the House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Members, this debate has concluded. The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. A party vote's called for. I'll ask the clerk to conduct a party vote.
New Zealand National.
59 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
32 votes in favour.
Green Party.
14 opposed.
New Zealand First.
12 votes in favour.
Maori Party.
2 votes in favour.
Ag New Zealand.
1 vote in favour.
New United Future.
Members, the ayes are 107, the noes are 14. The motion is agreed to.
Employment Standards Legislation Bill, first reading.
The question... point of order, is it?
After this one.
The question is that the Employment Standards Legislation Bill be considered by the Transport and Industrial Relations Committee. Those of that opinion will say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. The Honourable Nathan Guy.
I move that the Employment Standards Legislation Bill be reported to the House by the 12th of February 2016.
I have a different date. It's a new date, is it? 12th of February. The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. Call on Government Order of the Day number 4.
Passports Amendment Bill number 2, second reading.